All right, hello everybody, good evening, and welcome into a Friday edition of KC Sports Tonight. I am Mark Powell, joined by Katie Marr as we get you ready for the weekend ahead in high school, college, and professional football. But we're going to start, it's a Red Friday here in Chiefs Kingdom, so we got to start with some Chiefs football on Monday night. You all know the Chiefs are going to host the Washington Commanders at Arrowhead Stadium. Kickoff at 7:20 p.m. The Chiefs are 11.5-point favorites. We're going to talk about the latest information. There was some big injury news today with the team. Right guard Trey Smith did not practice for the second day in a row as he continues to deal with some back spasms that he suffered last week in the game against the Raiders. Kareem Hunt was limited at practice today after not practicing yesterday. He is dealing with ankle and knee injuries. And then obviously Josh Simmons did not practice today as he continues to deal with personal issues, personal reasons, missing practice, Everyone else, though, that was on the injury report did practice in full. On the Commanders side of this matchup, obviously we all know QB Jaden Daniels is going to miss Monday's game with a hamstring injury, but a big injury on the defensive side of the football. Defensive tackle Deron Payne, one of their starters, he did not practice the last 2 days dealing with a toe injury. Today, the Chiefs coordinators and Chris Jones met with the media to preview Monday's matchup. Let's start maybe, Katie, with Matt Nagy's comments. He really talked about the team's offense taking a big leap here in the last couple of weeks, scoring 28 points, 4 games in a row. I know last Sunday you did a story on everybody's got to eat, kind of that mentality, that saying that's been going over the receiving room, but to hear him kind of talk about how the team is unselfish, that kind of stuff, how do you think maybe that bodes for the offense once again in a game that they're favored by 11.5 points?
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of stuff that wins you a Super Bowl. Having an unselfish team and an unselfish group of receivers, that's not something that's very common in the NFL. And for valid reasons, I get it. You know, you want to take care of your own, and we all have our own personal goals, and that's valid. But there's something special about when a group of guys just really likes each other and likes seeing each other succeed, and that's what they've got with this group. The core three obviously being Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Hollywood Brown. I've seen people that have gotten on the bandwagon to start making their nickname Fahrenheit 451. I like that. That's kind of a fun use of their numbers. That's what I was told, at least. I haven't heard. I
like that better than the 415 area code, because that's not in Kansas or Missouri.
No, doesn't fit. No. But Matt Nagy talked today about how, it starts with Travis Kelce and, all the comments people want to have about he's old and he's not producing like he used to and whatever. He was still the team's leading receiver last week. All I'm going to say, 54 yards, only receiver to get above 50 yards. The leadership that Kelce provides the team, obviously, is unlike anyone else in pro football at this point, because how many tight ends are his age doing what he's doing and still taking time? A lot of 36-year-olds could not care, but he's taking the time, he's caring about setting that example for the guys younger than him. And this group of Rashee, Xavier, and Hollywood, they're similar in age a little bit. They just seem to like hanging out with each other. Even going in the locker room last week after the win against the Raiders, they were just having fun with each other, and they all had 30 receiving yards, and they didn't care. So Hollywood and Xavier, they didn't care that one of them didn't get a touchdown and Rashee got 2. They all seemed genuinely happy for each other. And you can't fake that, especially when you're just kind of interacting in the locker room. That's the thing that stands out the most to me in this offense, and Matt Nagy talks a lot about it, and he brought it up again today. And like I said, that's the kind of thing that wins you a championship, when everybody buys into not caring about themselves as much as they care about the overall product.
No, I think that's a tremendous point. And what I really like to hear Matt Nagy talk about today is how a lot of the meetings are fun. He's we have a great time together. He's I think that's really something that you need, just as Katie was saying, if you want to win a championship, your place of work, besides game day, has to be a positive, fun environment. They certainly do like that. I also, I know a lot of fans are kind of hearing there's really good vibes in that receiver room or in the offense as a whole, and then the coaches are saying, that is very rare. And I think a lot of fans are well, if it was going this good, why wouldn't they want it this way? Well, look around football. It doesn't have to, it could be any level, high school, college, NFL. You're going to find receivers who might get the diva label, who are always going to tell you that they want the ball, who are always going to tell you they're open, even when they're not.
Receivers the most common position position for that to be a thing.
Yeah, and they can be kind of divas, a little bit of a situation, maybe a distraction from the team. You're not seeing that with any of these guys. You're seeing people genuinely celebrate each other's success, which is very exciting here in the NFL. But one thing offensively, I certainly think that all Chiefs fans need to have a look on, especially an eye out maybe for practice tomorrow, and then obviously the game on Monday, is the health of right guard Trey Smith. We did see him leave Sunday's game dealing with a back injury, and anyone on planet Earth who's had a back, which is all of us, we know the back is a fickle beast, and this is not something that we want to see with Trey Smith. He is the highest paid guard in the NFL, or at least he was when he signed his contract. He is one of the best interior linemen in the NFL. So, Katie, kind of my question for you here is, scale of 1 to 10, does this raise a lot of alarms for you? Because I'm moderately worried. I'd say about a 6. This concerns me.
The only reason I'm concerned is because of the situation with Josh Simmons. So they're already down one of their utility linemen who can jump in kind of anywhere and be a 6 starter, and that's Jalen Moore. Well, when Jalen Moore is filling the role of another starter, you're already kind of down that depth chart a little bit. That's the only reason why it really concerns me. Other than the fact that obviously Trey Smith is one of the best guards in the league, and this offensive line has finally started to gel and mesh, and they're giving Patrick Mahomes more time to get the ball downfield, and the extra 2 seconds that they can give him when they're playing well is very important to the success of the offense. And then of course with the run game, that is still not where it needs to be, but continues to improve every week. Andy Reid yesterday said that he and his coaching staff have always viewed Mike Caliendo as a starter. So, I mean, you can take that as that's coaches speak.
Yeah, they've always viewed him as a starter, but they've never started him when they wanted to.
So I'm like, okay, we can kind of take that with a grain of salt. That might just be a little bit of coaches speak and, instilling confidence in the guy, because that's what a good coach does. I mean, I wouldn't feel very good about my chances if I'm a guard in the NFL or any NFL player. If I'm going out there, or even me, I'm a reporter, I'm going out to do a live shot, and my boss texts me before and is like, I don't think you're very good at your job. That would instill confidence in anybody. So I get that Andy Reid saying that is important. But the fact that Mike Kelly knows, he's been there for a while. He's not a new guy who just came there this year. So he knows the system, and they've had all week to kind of prepare for this. If it were something happened in practice, or maybe he was practicing, then all of a sudden he's not. But Caliendo's been getting the first team reps because Trey Smith hasn't been practicing. So that gives me a little bit more confidence. And in the past, when talking about the Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore situation, they've stressed many times that Andy Heck, the offensive line coach, has been really good about, even before this situation, rotating guys in practice. And so it's not just the first teamers that are getting the first team reps. They've been getting guys like Caliendo in there with Mahomes and the rest of the first teamers. So if that's true, then I'm a little more confident in it. However, I'm still a little bit worried, as anyone would be, when the highest paid guard in the league is on your team and they're not playing. But they did say they don't think this is going to be a long-term serious issue. If they're playing the game of give him rest this week, if he's still not feeling well against the Bills, don't play him, and then he has 3 weeks to rest because bye week after that. So
Yeah, the Chiefs certainly are trying to play a long season. This is a team that, as of right now, looks like it's primed to make another deep Super Bowl run. So Trey Smith is obviously going to be a big part of that. Chiefs are going to do everything that they can to keep him healthy. So certainly a situation we'll keep our tabs on. We'll have an update tomorrow night on our over-the-air show, 10:35 p.m. on KC Sports Tonight. But it's not just a big weekend for pro football. It is a really big local weekend for college football. We have two great games involving our three local teams. We're going to start with the one that has two local schools in it. K-State against KU, the Sunflower Showdown, 11 a.m. kickoff tomorrow morning at David Booth, Kansas Memorial Stadium. A national TV game on TNT, although maybe both teams aren't living up to the expectations they had internally going into this season. Now, Katie, for me, I really see this as a game. This is so important, not only to the University of Kansas and Lance Leipold, but so important to Kansas State and their head coach, Chris Kleiman. For K-State, I mean, let's just lay the chips out there on the table. K-State, this has not been the season that they've wanted. They went out there to Ireland. They were ranked in the top, I think, number 17, number 18 in the country, somewhere in that ballpark. Lost to Ireland out there. Lost Dylan Edwards for a lot of the season, just on one of the first punt return, I think the first punt return of the game.
Yep.
And it's kind of been tough sledding for them. They enter this game with a losing record on the season, and it is safe to say it's been a pretty lost season out there at K-State. Now they have an 11 a.m. kick on the road at Kansas. Kansas is favored by 3.5 points. Kansas has a brand new football stadium, for 2/3 renovated, but a brand new, beautiful, shiny facility. K-State, though, has won this game 16 years, obviously, in a row. Okay, long story, though. For KU, I think Lance Leipold needs to win this game to show that he can beat K-State in a down year. Flip side of this, Kleiman, he needs to show that he can beat KU and keep the streak going and show that this isn't a lost season. So my question, Katie, who is this game a bigger game for? Lance Leipold or Chris Kleiman? Because it's a tough one.
Ooh. And something else to remember in this is that if K-State doesn't win this game, their chances of getting to a bowl game become a lot slimmer.
Oh, yeah.
Because Texas Tech is still on their schedule, and they only have so many games left after this, and they only come in with 3 wins. KU, if they beat K-State, they're only 1 win away from a bowl game. And that becomes pretty easy because both KU and K-State have Oklahoma State on their schedule. I would assume. I think KU is the better team this year because they have their offense figured out. K-State doesn't have its offense figured out. And then both teams are struggling on defense. I think that's why I'm going to give KU the upper hand here and why I understand they're 3-point favorites for the first time in, 11 years? Is that 11 years, I believe?
No, the first time they've been favored since they won the game last, which was 2008.
Okay, so, yeah.
The Ron Prince era for K-State.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah. No, whoever a kid born in 2008 can drive a car now in the state of Kansas, and they've never seen the Jayhawks beat K-State in football.
Wow. I would argue that this is bigger for Lance Leipold, and that's not me looking at this season. It's me looking at their careers. Kleiman's beat KU plenty of times. I'm of the belief that Chris Kleiman's job is safe. He's had how many straight 8-win seasons? Like, he has one down year with a new offensive coordinator, a brand new offensive line coach, after letting, maybe the best offensive line coach in the country up to the NFL. He's now with the Cowboys. I think that Lance Leipold has to prove that he can beat K-State because he never has, and he's had teams that have been capable of doing so. Last year it was close. The year before it was close, and Lance Leipold has been very open in the past about saying, like, I can't really call this a rivalry because we haven't won it in how many years. And that's kind of the same thing we were talking about with the Raiders game last week. Can we truly call it a rivalry anymore when the Raiders have been just so terrible for the last however many years and the Chiefs have just owned them kind of, except for a few games here and there? That's kind of what it's come down to. I mean, KU needs to prove that, okay, we have this brand new stadium that's 2/3 of the way done, technically. It's a sellout, it's on national TV. It's not the night kickoff that we're used to or have been used to in recent years with these two teams. But I think it'll still be fun nonetheless. With it being an 11 a.m. kickoff, people are just going to start tailgating at 6 a.m. Biscuits and gravy, all that fun stuff at their tailgates, I do think it's bigger for Lance Leipold in the grand scheme of things. However, in the terms of this season with the sense of urgency, the Wildcats just need to win it so that they can get to a bowl game. Because if they don't, then they only have, four games are left in the season after this week?
Yeah.
Believe so. Yeah. They only have a few more chances to do that, and they're not beating Texas Tech. So I think Texas Tech's really good. So
yeah, this game, it's such I feel like an inflection point for both of these programs because the status of whoever wins this game, obviously you're going to have bragging rights for the whole next year, but that head coach, boy, if K-State loses this football game, I know that you think Chris Kleiman is safe, but I think you could make the argument that K-State will be a football program on the ropes. I think we've talked about it here on this program again. Like if K-State loses this game, they fall to 3-5. Makes it very unlikely that they get bowl eligibility. Then the questions just start arising. Like, will Avery Johnson come back? And I think the answer would be no. Like, will Dylan Edwards come back? I mean, there would be a lot of questions there because these are a lot of good football players that have professional aspirations. And if K-State crumbles the way that they've kind of started out this season, if they lose that game on Saturday, I think Chris Kleiman is going to have a lot of questions to answer. And I know he's built a little bit of a track record of success, but the way that this season has gone and the way that it has unfolded, like his job will be called into question. It's the nature of the game here in college football. And I mean, on the flip side of this, if KU goes into this game, obviously they're picked to win. A lot of people think this could be the year that they break that streak and get over the hump. But if they don't, I hate to say it, but it's just a 17th loss in a row. Like, I don't know if this might be their best chance. And I don't know if they're going to have a chance again next year. But I mean, Lance Leipold, I think, is a good fit at the University of Kansas. And if you were to get rid of him, I don't know who you would bring in because if you're at the University of Kansas, you are not going to be getting the pick of the litter of head football coaches. You're going to have to find a guy who's overlooked by other programs, who might be are from a lesser level. Those are going to be the guys that you're going to attract at the University University of Kansas. K-State, I think, could maybe have a wider appeal because they've had greater success. But
his name is Colin Klein.
Yeah, no, he's a former quarterback there.
I think the only way that I'm of the belief that Chris Kleinman's job is safe unless Colin Klein says that he wants the head coach job at K-State. I'm also of the belief that I don't think Chris Kleinman has a job for life at K-State. I am of the belief that Lance Leipold has a job for life if he wants it at KU, unless all of a sudden he has like 3 or 5 straight 2-win seasons, 3-win seasons, you know?
Yeah, I want to see one of these teams come out and make a statement. For Kansas State, I want to find out who is the Wildcats' emotional leader. I want to see those guys go out there and put on a fired-up performance because it's just really something that we have not, in my opinion, seen this year. Football is such a game played, obviously, with intense high emotions. And with K-State, I just don't know if I've seen that at the level that I want to see. And then, I mean, KU, you have an opportunity to make a statement here. You have an opportunity to beat your in-state rival and show that your program is on the correct trajectory and that K-State's is not. And if KU cannot put that performance on Saturday at home with the 6th-year starting quarterback, favored for the first time in 16 years, I don't know if it's going to happen. So KU, a lot of stakes there.
I mean, KU does have the upper hand when it comes to K-State's run game has just been, Neil and I were kind of talking about this on here yesterday, it's been non-existent. I think that because Dylan Edwards is probably not going to play this week, the only way that K-State wins this game, I think, is if they just let Avery Johnson loose, because KU has kind of proven that the one thing that they are not very good at this year is stopping the quarterback run. They've got other problems on defense for sure too, but they've proven to have difficulties with stopping a mobile quarterback. It's the one thing you can't predict in football in general. So will K-State finally let Avery loose and just say, all right, we have 3 wins. There's 4 weeks left in the season after this. Let him loose.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to see. We're going to have Katie Marr and Neil Jones out there tomorrow. We'll have a full breakdown of that game tomorrow on KC Sports Tonight. But that's not the only big college football game in our neck of the woods, well, involving our local teams this week. The 15th-ranked Missouri Tigers go on the road in an SEC showdown against the 10th-ranked Vanderbilt Commodores. We all know College Game Day is going to be on site. Missouri enters that game as a 2.5-point underdog. Vanderbilt 6-1 so far this year, and Vanderbilt has played extremely well. They have wins in the SEC against South Carolina. They lost to Alabama and LSU, so 2-1 there in conference. But Vanderbilt, their quarterback Diego Pavia, certainly an emotional leader for that group. Missouri, though, coming off a big double overtime victory on the road at Auburn. So, Katie, my question for you here is: Missouri had a big emotional win last week against Auburn, who I think is a quality opponent, even though they're 0-4 in SEC play. Will Missouri be able to back that up, and can they score the upset against Vanderbilt?
I think I'm going to say the same thing I said ahead of the Alabama game. It's that they can win and they should win. Will they win? That's the question. I think that Bama is a better team than Vandy, which they proved because they beat them first and foremost. But second of all, the fact that Mizzou went so close with Bama and then, they lost the game because of that 3rd and 24 play that they gave up. Again, they can win. They should win. Will they have another freak mess up like they did against Bama and lose it even though they shouldn't? I think that Mizzou's the better team. I think they have one of the best running backs in the country, and that's number one when it comes to winning football games is establishing the run. Can their defense not have a lapse? That's my biggest thing, because Diego Pavia is such a firecracker and he's that emotional leader for the team, and they have benefited of it being at home. But I think that Mizzou can absolutely go on the road and get an upset there. And I think they kind of have to, because I think that if they lose this game, they can lose this game and still make the college football playoff, because 3 or 4 SEC teams are going to make the college football playoff. And I don't think anyone's getting through SEC play unscathed. It's just too good. Like, there's going to be someone with 1 loss at least. And I think at least 2 people go to the playoff with 2 losses. I think Mizzou is one of the best teams in the SEC and should go to the playoff, but if they get their second loss against Vandy, they don't have room for error after that. It's going to be really, really hard to make a case with 3 losses on your record, because they do still have A&M to worry about, and you never know. It's college football. Upsets happen all the time, so they can't count anyone out like, oh, these are just worse teams, so it's okay. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. So I think that they lose the cushion that they have right now if they lose to Vandy.
Yeah, I think this is a big chance for Missouri to come out and make a big statement to the nation. I think maybe in this game, Missouri is a little undervalued nationally. I think maybe Vanderbilt was a little overvalued nationally. I mean, you look at the common opponent. Missouri played Alabama at home, lost a very close game. Vanderbilt played on the road at Alabama. It was a close game. Alabama scored a touchdown late to make it look a little tighter, a little more of a blowout than it was, 30-14. But guys, I really think this Missouri football team, a very good offensive line, a very good defensive line. I think they're going to really have a chance to win this game, but I think a little bit the book is out on Bo Pribula, because entering the season we knew he was a running quarterback from Penn State, and then in the first couple games of the season, it's not like Missouri played a bunch of world beaters. The only good team that they really played early on, at least, was the University of Kansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah, Central Arkansas and UMass without their starting quarterback, or Louisiana without their starting
Arkansas was the
quarterback.
good team.
But we learn Missouri has a good football team, but we learned that if you put Bo Pribula in pass first situations, that's probably a win for the defense, at least right now, as the way it stands. So we're gonna maybe need to see some development there out of Pribula. But I will say one of the best things that happened for Missouri was that their starting quarterback made his first road start last week in a very raucous SEC environment. And experience is everything in everything you do, and that's going to matter so much going on the road. Because I know College Game Day is going to be there on hand at Vanderbilt, but I would honestly expect Vanderbilt to have not as raucous of an environment as Auburn. I mean, you see the situations out there at the Plains, Jordan-Hare Stadium. That's what college football is all about, and Missouri went in there. They got to win, and I think that will certainly help their confidence moving forward. So we'll see how that one goes.
Is Stadium done yet?
I am not 100% sure. I am not. Last year, I know it looked terrible. I assume this year they've had a little more progress. But I mean, come on now. Like, Vanderbilt is not known as an SEC power. Missouri can go in there. Missouri can make a name for themselves, and you know.
It was kind of funny. I was watching College Game Day last Saturday, and that when they were doing their picks, and Nick Saban picked against Vandy for the 20 millionth time, and someone said to him, like, are you just never going to pick Vandy? And he kind of just admitted on air, like, I don't think I'm ever going to believe that Vandy's, like, a good college football school.
Yeah, there's a lot to overcome there for the Commodores. But, hey, if they beat Missouri on Saturday, I think you could say that this Vandy team is for real. I think you could say that on both sides. Like, whoever wins this game is going to get the seal of approval, the stamp of legitimacy, and whoever loses it is not going to get it. That's pretty much, I would say, what's at stake in this game, and we'll kind of see what happens. Is that fair, Katie?
I think that's totally fair.
All right.
Nail right on the head.
There we go. Hey, that's why you watch KC Sports Tonight. All right, it's Friday night. Friday Night Lights. The regular season is wrapping up in high school football. We have a bunch
of scarf. I'm ready for the cold.
I was just about to say that. This is like the first weekend I wanted. Like week 2, there was a little bit of chill in the air, but every other week it's been pretty hot, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I have only had to pull out a jacket, I think, once.
Yeah, today we have football weather. It's a little chilly. It's a little moist. There's some sprinkles in the air. This is what it's all about. We were talking about this earlier in the sports office. What does that mean? Ball security is a premium. 4 points of contact. 2 hands on that football. You don't want to let that loose, but there's probably going to be some fumbles tonight. Coaches, fans, players, you're just going to have to deal with it. All right, here we go. Tonight on KSMO, we maybe have the best team in our viewing area, Blue Springs South. They're going to take on Lee Summit West. 7 p.m. kick on KSMO. You guys are going to want to watch that one. Then ESPN Plus actually has 2 great games tonight on streaming. Blue Springs is going on the road up to Liberty North in a matchup of 2 really good football programs who are both playing good football late in the season. Liberty North especially. And then also Excelsior Springs going on the road to Kearney. Kearney undefeated. Boy, that Bulldog football team looks so good so far this year. But our game of the week is at North Kansas City High School. That's where Neil Jones is going to be at. 7-1 Liberty taking on 7-1 North Kansas City. North Kansas City having one of their best seasons in a really long time. Shout out to those kids for everything that they're doing. Park Hill, they're going on the road to Oak Park. On the Kansas side, a big matchup in Olathe. Olathe Northwest taking on Olathe West in a matchup of 2 of the best teams in Class 6A. That will determine a lot of playoff seedings there in that 6A East bracket. Also, Shawnee Mission Northwest taking on Shawnee Mission East. I would say these are probably the 2 best teams in the Shawnee Mission School District. They're taking on each other. And then Katie is going to be out at a pretty fun game out there in Lenexa. Blue Valley West, who has Matt Nagy's kid on their team, is taking on St. James Academy. So
might see Matt Nagy tonight.
Yeah, there's potential to see a lot of football players. Matt Nagy there for the Blue Valley West. Anthony Sherman, a coach with St. James Academy. But Katie, regular season's wrapping up. It feels like it's kind of gone by in a blur.
That's how it always feels. And then playoffs start next week. And I always say my favorite week of high school football every year is sectionals, so it's first weekend, regionals, sectionals, sub-state, state. I think that sectional is always the best week. So I'm excited for that week. I'm already building up the excitement for it. But this is it like kind of has crept up on us. Like I just kind of realized last week when we were getting ready for the show, I was like, next week is the final week of the regular season and standings are kind of all over the place. So I'm excited to see how things shake out. Especially in, the Class 6 and 6A brackets and 5 and all that stuff. It's going to be interesting. There are a lot of really good teams that are getting decided this week.
Absolutely, and no team is safe. There are upsets galore in high school football. That's what makes the sport so interesting to watch. It's kind of funny when you talk around, you go out to these games and parents will talk to you, coaches will talk to you, officials will talk to you, like, oh, who looks really good this year? And you kind of start telling them some stuff, but then it's just like at the end of the day, they're 14 to 18-year-old kids. Like they don't perform with any consistency. It's not like these are the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not
unless
like they're
you're
high
Blue
level.
Spring South.
Yeah, Blue Spring South looks really good, but their level of performance, it varies from week to week. So in the playoffs, if you have a team that's a high seed, a low seed could beat them. If the coach gets that group motivated, the other team lays an egg. There's your recipe for an upset.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about high school sports is like you could have like a school that plays all these teams that are like 2 classes above them, and they like have like a 3-5 record, and then they go into their class and then they just like beat everybody because they just played better competition throughout the year.
Are you talking about the Bishop Miege Stags?
Not the Fighting Marks.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in 4A get really upset with the Stags, but they just play 6A schools all year long, and then they play 4A schools in the playoffs.
They're not the only ones.
And they're pretty prepared. That's what it is. All right, yeah, they're definitely not the only ones, but we're going to have all this. We're going to have a great night of Friday Night Blitz coming up tonight at about 10:15 p.m. Myself, Neil Jones, and Katie Marr will have you covered with some of the top matchups of the night. Stick with us there. We'll see you there. And then tomorrow, guys, we have another big KC Sports Tonight. Katie and Neil are going out to the Sunflower Showdown. There's the Missouri game. And then obviously the Chiefs playing on Monday Night Football against the Washington Commanders. We'll have you covered every step of the way.
Sunday at 10
Price Chopper Game Day, Sunday at 10 a.m. We have a huge pinch hitter this week. Katie Marr taking over. Katie, you were putting some of that show together. We have about 20 seconds left. How much of a lift is that, and how much credit should we give Marlia?
Marlia Campbell is the greatest of all time. We knew this, but we're telling you guys because, wow, that's a long show to produce, and she does it all every week, and she's still the GOAT. We love her.
Yep, she's a superstar. Marlia, you are. Katie Marr stepping in, though, this week, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. We'll see you there. All right, guys, that's a look at KC Sports Tonight on this Red Friday. Have a good weekend, everybody.